Okay, I also can see that we have some more of our friends and trainers here. So Karunya is there from India and Brigitte from Kenya. So nice that you also have time to join. That's very nice. And I see, yeah, we also have some more people. Uh, Bernsa and Tokusani. Welcome, everybody. So I think we can start now. So I would say that Sveta, if you can start the video now, and then so we will have a presentation from me and then a presentation from Iroy, and after that we will have a Q&A. So if you have questions, you can either use the chat function already during the presentations, but also, of course, otherwise keep your questions in mind, and we will be happy, Vinod Vasudevan and myself, to answer all your questions after the presentations. Okay, so let's start today's lecture. Sveta, here we go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Miniculturism as a tool to develop sustainable tourism. The online lectures, Africa introduction for the lecture number 3. So we have done in the first week of December 5 different online lectures for 5 different African countries, and December 9th we did the lecture 2, where we have been looking especially on KPIs and other tools and offers of the Tourism Center. So today we will look at more the background, and we'll look at the holistic approach, and also on an example how to earn money from sustainable behavior. And the final one in the series of our online lectures for Africa will be on the 30th of December. So we're making a break after the Christmas season, where we will then look at a step-by-step guide how to successfully implement the meaningful tourism approach. So today, I will do a very brief recap for those who have not joined the other lectures about what is meaningful tourism, and then we will concentrate on the background of meaningful tourism before I hand over to our colleague Vinod Vasudevan from the Iroy company, who's based in Bangalore in India, and he will talk about earning money from sustainable behavior. How can you use carbon credit trading, especially for Africa? And at the end, there will be the opportunity for question and answers with the audience. So the participation of this lecture is free because it's sponsored by us, the Meaningful Tourism Center, and our partners, the Tourism Institute. We are very thankful for that. If you want to have a participation certificate, this is available for $30. You have to pay for a fee for the work we do with that. But if you are interested, just drop us a line, and we are happy to provide you with a participation certificate. There's a special bonus that all participants of the Meaningful Tourism online lectures Africa will receive automatically free access to the Meaningful Tourism weekly publication. If you are not interested, then you can cancel it at any time, of course. So let's keep in mind, Europe is the past, Asia is the present, Africa is the future. And meaningful tourism is a tool for sustainable and profitable success. So with this, let's start the lecture. So let us start the lecture 3, Meaningful Tourism, a holistic approach, and an example how to earn money from sustainable behavior. Okay, so as mentioned, so I will do a very brief recap of what is meaningful tourism for those who have not been here for the previous lectures, and then concentrate on talking about the background of meaningful tourism, how this idea is grounded in the discourse of sustainable tourism, and how it can be used, and how it is different from other approaches. And after that, our friend and colleague Vinod from Iroy will talk about how to earn money from sustainable behavior with the example of market training, and then we'll do the Q&A at the end. Also, don't forget, if you want to have a participation certificate against a fee, we're happy to provide it. Just drop us a line so you can get your own participation certificate. Briefly, what is the Meaningful Tourism Center? So we are a non-profit organization based in London with a headquarters in Kathmandu. So I'm speaking from Kathmandu to you, and we're very proud to have partners and trainers around the world. So we provide all kinds of services connected to meaningful tourism, and I have the honor to be the founder and director, and many people call me now Prof. M for meaningful. And I've been working in tourism for practically all my life, and for many years, mostly for Chinese tourism. And in the last 5 years, I have concentrated more and more on being topic of meaningful tourism. And last year, I moved to Kathmandu and live now here in Nepal. More importantly, these are our meaningful tourism certified trainers. As you can see, we have experts from different fields in many different countries of the world. So these people are there offline, available for you in your region to implement meaningful tourism with the support in the form of training or implementation support, whatever you want. And also, let me mention again that we are very happy that part of the Pacific Asia Travel Association has adopted as a vision a meaningful Pacific Asia tourism economy that happened, as you can see on the photo, in the middle of the year in Turkey, in Istanbul. So if you missed the lectures, again, you can download all the videos on this link from our partners from the Tourism Institute and have a look at them in more detail. So here, just let me remind you that meaningful tourism is based on the insight that all stakeholders have to have objective benefits and subjective satisfactions. And the 6 main stakeholders are the travelers, the host community, the employees, the companies, the governments, and the environment. And why do we need meaningful tourism? Well, obviously, there's the climate breakdown happening already now and will happen in the next decades. It will become even worse. There's not much we can do against it, even whatever we do from tomorrow morning. The damage has been done. There's AI and other new technologies bringing big changes, big opportunities, but also challenges. And we can also see that the demand of travelers is more and more moving from relaxation, sightseeing, and from experiences with night memories to actually transformational experiences which change you and which are hopefully enriching you as a person. So meaningful tourism is not just a nice to have idea, but it's a set of tools which are necessary in the coming decades for the survival and future development of destinations, companies. So meaningful tourism offers tools for analyzing, for aligning interest, for developing a strategy, for monitor progress, for compare yourself with others, and very importantly also to give input to the academic and vocational education of those people working in tourism industry, and also to the public discourse to show how tourism is beneficial and should be satisfactory to all stakeholders involved. So just a brief recap again. If you want to know more, look at the other lectures we have offered and which are available online. So let's dip a bit deeper into meaningful tourism as a holistic approach. And clearly, after the pandemic, some people are saying, oh, let's go back to the good old times. which are not so good after all, as we remember. And the return is not possible. So we cannot go to where we were before. And there are four main reasons for that. First of all, there is dissatisfaction with what was happening before the pandemic. And we can see that almost all over the world, there's a lack of staff. So that even the customers are back, the staff is not back. There have been revolting host communities arguing that over-tourism is too far developed, or in this photo here, Pattaya, saying, well, we don't want to be seen as a brothel for the world. And also we see governments more and more coming up with the idea, oh, we can tax foreign visitors because they're not our voters. So there's a lot of results of tourism not being seen as the good guys anymore. There is also, we can see every day in the news, a slowdown in the global economy, which is linked to climate change likely to continue. We see deglobalization, installment of border controls in Europe, for instance. And unfortunately, at the moment, we see major countries run by persons like the two gentlemen on the photo. The third reason is AI is changing the world of tourism in a much more profound way than even the internet did. We have more data and we can customize services much better. So as a result, we can see highly qualified jobs emerging, but also we see a lot of low qualified jobs disappearing. So especially in the back office. And the biggest argument is that the long-term game changer is climate change. So the then Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, Professor Talas, said already 3 years ago that even if we stop polluting completely tomorrow morning, the situation will get worse every year for 4 more decades, 40 years. So we can see that things happening, like just an example on the photo, the flooding of Dubai Airport in the middle of the desert. Who would have imagined that? And also we can see on the left-hand side, so the carbon dioxide production is moving on wherever we have agreed in Paris and in other places, in COPs, there is no letting up of the increasing level of pollution. So if there's no way back, what is the result for tourism? So we see the death of many old business models, so beach holidays, skiing, strolling through city centers. So tourism moves indoors in many ways. And we also see positively that there's more interest in transformative experiences. There's more interest in new destinations, going just beyond the beach and also not going there for the main season. So, which gives a lot of opportunities for existing companies and the need to change to special interest travel, health travel, education travel, spirituality, well-being. So you can say niche is becoming the new normal. And also, of course, we can see that we need to be engaged in becoming part of the solution again and not being part of the problem. So we see clearly in the current development that tourism needs peace. Tourism needs to work for open borders. Tourism has to support tolerance for differences and interest in diversity. So tourism can only succeed if it becomes more and more a part of the sustainable tourism development, not just for greenwashing, but for real. And for that, we are saying tourism needs to develop to meaningful good, because we are offering a holistic approach, which is what is needed. So there have been a lot of partial solutions, people concentrating on one part. So traditionally, People would say, "Our customers king." It would mean that the customers can treat their employees whatever the way they want. Some people have been saying the over tourism debate, oh, we should stop all tourism, we should stop flying aircraft at all to save the environment. That is not a solution for all those millions of people who are relying on tourism for their jobs and their income. Or we can raise the prices, only rich people can travel, and then we have less travelers. But traveling is a human right, and it should not, in a democratic society, it should not be only given like it used to be in the old times to the rich and influential people. On the other hand, some people say, no, the host community can decide what is happening in their destination, if they let tourists in or out. For instance, if places are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, like, for instance, Amsterdam, the city center, so clearly UNESCO says this place belongs to the world and has to be possible to visit for everybody. You have the neoliberal economic people saying, oh, tourism is just another business, and all we have to do is to make sure we we maximize our profits and we maximize the governmental tax income. But tourism is not just business. Tourism is also something so clearly intertwined with the rest of the developments on the planet that we just discussed. And it's also so important as a tool to create understanding between cultures, between different people, learning more, having transformational experiences. So there's much more to it than just to say how much money. Also, the debate, very often the blame is put on the travelers, and the job is given to the travelers. They have to be responsible in their behavior. They have to make sure that their way of traveling is creating regenerative tourism, which is, of course, important, but this is not the only part of the story. There's much more to it. And for instance, employees in these discussions are very often not mentioned at all. So tourism is now seen more and more as a problem, and we have to be a part of the answer. And talking about partial solutions, so a few more mentioning here. Who asked foreign visitors that they have to pay like 10 times the entrance fee for attractions compared to local people, or that we have very high user fees, is not a solution. Not, it's like the idea that AI needs a lot of data center, which need a lot of power. So we should not have more renewable energy for that, but we should build nuclear power plants. And everybody knows we have no idea what to do with all the waste which is produced and which will be dangerous for hundreds of thousands of years. And a very good example are electric vehicles, which are a very nice way to stop polluting the cities if the energy they're using is renewable energy. But still, that will not change that the cities are all built around these metal boxes, which are actually standing around for 22 hours and are moving only for 2 hours. So again, we need a more holistic solution, much better than just electric vehicles. And we see some places say, oh, we ban Airbnb, we ban Uber, we ban cheap hotels, so that only people can pay for regular hotels and pay for regular taxis or rental car welcome. But for many parts of the tourism industry, like a souvenir shop, for instance, or a small cafe, so they don't care where people stay and how they are transported. They want to have the more visitors, the better. So that's also not a solution for everybody. And but as a university professor, also to say, it's very funny for me to see that now many universities try to forbid students from using AI apps, which of course are very helpful if you're a student. But I remember that there was a time when in school and universities, people tried to stop people and students from using pocket calculators. So this is a absolute battle you can only lose. So what we need is a holistic approach, and the minicultural paradigm is such a holistic approach. And so this has been going on, of course, for a long time. So when we talked about tourism, so even in the 1970s already, there had been some thinkers who were talking about the ecological concerns arising from, well, the global economy development, but it's also from tourism already at the time. In 1987, we had famously the Brundtland report, or Brundtland report, which established the concept of sustainable development. So this is now almost 40 years ago. And in tourism, the 1990s, the WTO, United Nations World Tourism Organization, adopted a three-pillar model, only looking at economic, environmental, and socio-cultural questions, where originally the concept of sustainable development also had and sustainable tourism also involved the visitor satisfaction and equity. In 2011, my good friend Howard Goodwin developed the idea of responsible tourism. So with a call on all actors to take more responsibility, which is a very good approach, which I fully support. However, as we all know, not everybody is a person happy to take over responsibility. And again, this is true for companies and government, but it's also true for holiday makers as well. So post-pandemic, meaningful tourism was developed during the pandemic and refined and discussed with many colleagues and with our partners as a holistic, positive paradigm incorporating all 5 original dimensions of sustainability. So economic, environmental, social culture, satisfaction, equity, and adding other employees as an important stakeholder to the concept. So meaningful tourism is grounded in positive psychology. So it is not about zero-sum trade-offs. It's about aligning interest through achievable annual or real-time measured smart KPIs. And again, we have been talking about KPIs in the previous lectures. Please refer to that. So by shifting focus from the restrictions to mutual flourishing, we can provide a practical, positive, and holistic framework for sustainable tourism. So what is positive psychology? Very briefly, this is the idea to go from treating problems to fostering well-being in the first place. So positive psychology is focusing on the thriving and flourishing of humans and looking at the factors contributing to success and happiness, and the study of virtues and strengths rather than just dealing with your challenges and your weaknesses. And it was pioneered by authors like Seligman and this other gentleman, I don't dare to pronounce the name, who gave us already the idea of flow in tourism before. So this approach had academic spin-offs which are relevant for us. Positive tourism, where these ideas were directly to the tourism experiences applied, and talking about the enhancement of well-being, which is much more than just wellness. So well-being is about your brain as much as your heart and also your soul. And also there was another spin-off, positive sustainability. So where also the question of well-being, of human flourishing is put into the idea in a much bigger way of sustainability. So that creates a fundamental shift in mindset. So from the traditional approach of what to reduce, what to give up, what to forego, what to feel ashamed about, to what forms of tourism can ensure benefits for everybody, and how can we create satisfaction for all stakeholders? So that means when we talk about forms of tourism, that you have an all-inclusive resort, which is off limits to the locals and where all the food stuff is and all the beverages are and all the artists performing there and the management are all sourced outside the country, and most of the money flows out of the country at the end, and the local people can only get a job as a cleaning woman or waiter. This is obviously not giving benefits to all involved. So the maker tourism approach is focusing on the positive outcomes and on value creation for everybody involved. Another pillar the meaningful tourism approach is resting on is Joseph Schumpeter's idea of creative destruction, which is very old already. He termed this in 1942 in a short chapter of his major book. The chapter is called The Process of Creative Destruction. And only a few months ago, the Nobel Prize for Economics was given to scholars who updated this concept and provided new evidence that there's a need to actively embrace and execute the destruction of old business models as a prerequisite to replace them with new innovative models, services, and products. So not trying to keep the old running as long as possible because it has been serving us so well in the past, but actively say, hey, we have to get rid of the old to get something better in. So we can see in tourism, for instance, that we have tour operators which are becoming less and less important and will basically disappear in the coming years. We have the traditional forms of tourism fairs which have to change to stay relevant. And we see many, as we said, many forms of tourism like beach tourism in the summertime when it becomes too hot and then in the water you have fairly fish and maybe poisonous algae. Skiing tourism, if there's no more snow and no more reliable snow, walking around in the city when it's 50 degrees, nobody wants to do that. So you will have to shift seasons, but also in many places replace this with new offers when you then indoors. So we can see that there's a lot of other approaches. All of them have their merits, no doubt about that. So we are not competing with any of these. All we're saying is that meaningful tourism, from our point of view, has a broader perspective and is covering all the major questions and all the major stakeholders, and that this is something which is a step forward in the right direction. So that means we are, to sum up, focusing on co-creating benefits rather than just reducing negatives. We emphasize concrete progress, so it's not just greenwashing, blah, 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 but this is really action and it is measured in what's happening in the next months and few years or not, if some 50 years from now. It is also looking at the physical reality, but also the mental and emotional perception. Tourism, as we all know, is all about perception. And so we can see that more and more people are anxious, and so therefore it is not possible to just look at the numbers, look at how many taxes our community is getting from tourism. We also have to really reach the emotional perception of host communities, for instance. So therefore, there is a search for more meaningfulness in all aspects of life, and tourism has it needs, if it wants to stay relevant and see constantly, to tap into this search for meaningfulness. And so a key point in this is to understand that it is possible to align interests, because tourism is selling in many ways nature and culture, and if we are destroying it, then there's nothing left for us to sell. So there is a alignment of interest, as also the host communities want to keep their nature intact and their culture alive. So there is no need to look at balancing and saying, oh, it's either one or the other, either growth or protection of the environment. There is a way, and this is the only possible way, to organize tourism to align interests. So, what we have seen in the past, why sustainability has not really been so successful when we talk about tourism, is that very often people say, okay, I'm supposed to not to do this, not to do that, or to pay more money, but what do I actually get out of this? So this is where we are able and trying to show with KPIs to everybody what is the mutual benefit. And so therefore, as we mentioned, so you see this sustainability fatigue. After 40 years of talking about it, people say, okay, what's come out? What's the outcome? I can't see much progress. And this is really, unfortunately, also documented by the SDGs, which were started 10 years ago. And according to the SDG progress report of this year, we can find that only 35 out of 137 goals have at least moderate progress after 10 years. So more than 100 do not even show moderate progress. Some even are moving into the wrong direction. So as much as we have been talking about SDGs, in the end, SDGs are mostly a failure. So to conclude, we see and we need an essential paradigm shift. So meaningful tourism is not just another label. It's not just about, oh, let's have everything a little bit more meaningful. It is a clear, fixed concept with fixed tools and ideas. And as you see, a background in the scientific debate about tourism, it goes beyond sacrifice, vague goals, and fragmented stakeholder views. It is grounded in positive psychology and demands simultaneous objective benefits and subjective satisfaction for all six stakeholders. Its core strength is the measurable positive outcomes via smart KPIs, which hopefully provide a real alternative to the sustainability fatigue. And it offers an actionable framework needed to build a tourism industry that is resilient, equitable, and a genuine force for good in the face of all the unprecedented global challenges we are all having to deal with. So this is the end of the introduction from my side, and thank you very much.
In a world where every sector must do its part, the hospitality industry stands at a unique crossroads, hosting millions while shaping a sustainable future. Step 1. Smart billing and digital records. Automated systems now track energy and water usage, carbon footprint per guest, and even the impact of room service. This transparency helps hotels benchmark, reduce, and communicate emissions. Water is precious. Through sensor-based taps, water recycling units, and rainwater harvesting, hotels cut consumption while ensuring luxury remains untouched. Energy efficiency is no longer optional. With solar power, smart thermostats, LED lighting, and HVAC optimization, IoT sensors for lighting and heating or cooling control, energy use is reduced by up to 40%, directly lowering emissions. Did you know hotels waste up to 150 kilograms of food daily? Through AI-based kitchen audits and composting, food waste becomes biocompost for gardens, or even biochar for carbon sequestration. Garden waste, too, is reimagined. Instead of being trashed, it's turned into fertilizer or clean-burning biomass. Guests play a key role. Simple choices, reusing linens, choosing local meals, or opting for green room services, staff uniforms, can cut their carbon footprint by up to 30%. The use of recycled material from bamboo waste into linen needs to be highlighted here, allowing for community-based entrepreneurs to develop and flourish. Transformation starts within. Trained staff drive the sustainability vision, reducing waste, spotting inefficiencies, and delivering a greener guest experience. Each action contributes to the UN Sustainable Development Goals: clean water, SDG 6, affordable and clean energy, SDG 7, responsible consumption, SDG 12, climate action, SDG 13. Guests can use our Carbon Calculator app to calculate their carbon footprint via air or road and during the stay, and contribute to a community development project that helps women empowerment, poverty alleviation, and making our planet a safer, greener place. The path to zero emissions isn't about compromise. It's about innovation, awareness, and commitment for the planet, for people, and for the future of hospitality. Businesses want to go green, but most don't know where to start. And the ones who try? They get lost in complex ESG frameworks and greenwashing risks. At AIROI, we turn climate goals into measurable impact, using AI to track emissions, generate real carbon biochar and plastic credits, and support nature-based solutions. From Peru to Nigeria, we help land stewards and recyclers monetize impact, turning sustainability into a business advantage. AIROI, where AI meets ESG. Let's build a regenerative future together.
Yeah, so the platform is structured into different modules. So this is called as, the first module is called as the Green Carbon Wallet. This is for the piece you mentioned. This is for carbon trading. So the green projects get registered in this module, and then it goes through a process of verification, audit, re-verification, and certification by the registry before the credits are issued. I'll show that to you in detail too. But before that, I'll take you through the net zero trace module. This would be of the highest interest for the hospitality sector. So what we do in the net zero trace module is when we onboard a new customer. So when we initially start onboarding the customer, the first step that we do is we set up the data for them. So we look at the structure of the organization. We look at what kind of locations they exist in, what kind of countries they exist in. For example, if you would take a hotel chain which is working or has outlets in multiple countries, so we set up their presence in different countries, and also within a country if they have a presence in multiple cities. So the locations from a hospitality perspective, you could probably look it up as cities or properties. Now, for instance, if Solti has 3 properties within Kathmandu, we set them up, each of them as a location within the country, and then we set up the departments in the company. So there could be a food and beverages section, there could be a finance section, there is a HR section, there's a marketing section, then there is a kitchen section, and then there is, for the waste monitoring, probably there is a section. So all these departments, as you can see here, they are defined as groups. We call them as groups or departments in our parlance. So the first step that we do for an organization when we onboard them is to set them up like this in the platform. And the second step that we do is set up their scope and category preferences. So going with the greenhouse gases protocol, there are mainly 3 scopes into which the emissions are divided. There is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. And within the scopes, there are different categories. So if you're burning fuel, for example, within the organization, you categorize that under stationary combustion. If you're running your own vehicles which are causing emissions, you record them under mobile sources, and so on and so forth. So you'll have a tree structure, and when you set up the organization, you define which of these options are actually applicable for the organization. So Professor, the point that you were mentioning, you can see that waste and water also come under a form of emission. So we have other forms of emission, and alongside we also have waste and water as a form of emission. So if the corporate is doing business travel, and on account of the business travel there are emissions, so they get recorded under this category. If the employees, when the employees commute to work and go back to their homes, there is an indirect emission which is caused by their commute to the organization. So that is recorded under employee commuting. So in this format, under scope 1, scope 2, and this is mandatory across the globe. The GHG protocol is valid across the globe. All the countries follow it in the same form. So there is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and different categories of emissions which are defined under these scopes. So this is the second step that we do as a part of the customer onboarding process. We define what are all the kinds of emissions that the particular organization creates. So once this is done, we go to the process of setup of users. So depending on what accesses and what rights people have, Professor, you were mentioning, right, like the receptionist has a certain set of rights. So the F&B manager has a different set of rights, while the GM of the organization will probably be able to want to see a holistic view of what happens within the hotel chain. So all this is done in the user setup process. We have 4 roles within the system. We have an analyst, we have an approver, we have a report user. So in the same format, different users and user accesses are created in the platform. This is the first step that we do. We create the company, we create what kind of scopes and emissions are applicable for them, and then we create the users for that organization. Once we cross this step, we train them on the platform, we create these users, we explain to them how the platform needs to be used, and then we get on to the step of data capture. So capture is the actual use of the platform. So the capture feature is opened out to the users within the organization. Now, like in the instance of Solti, the F&B, there are different SPOCs from different departments, and each of those SPOCs have a user ID created. They log in with their user ID and they access the platform. They access the platform and they start recording the data. So for instance, if you have multiple outlets of the same hotel chain, you set them up as multiple locations. So you choose for which location you are actually entering the data and for which month you're entering the data. And then you capture the data under each of these categories. For instance, if it is stationary combustion, it represents the fuel which is burnt within the organization. For example, in kitchen, there is LPG gas which is burnt, or there is charcoal which is burnt. So all these details are captured within the screens. So if you look at it, it'll kind of take the details of all emissions for that particular category. So what kind of fuel is combusted? Is diesel being burnt? Is kerosene being burnt? Is coal being burnt? So you capture this. And then you capture what state, which means basically whether it is a solid, liquid, or a fuel state of the fuel that is burnt, and how much quantity is combusted. So based on this, how much is burnt? Based on this, there are emission factors which are inbuilt in an engine in this platform. So there is a backend engine which runs, which captures the emission factors for various kinds of categories, various kinds of fuels, various kinds of countries. So the emission factors again vary from region to region. For example, in Nepal, say the emission factor is different. In US, the same emission factor could be different for the same kind of fuel that is being burnt. So these are governed by the relevant federal standards. So these emission factors are also set in the platform. And when these pieces of data are entered by the concerned users, system automatically calculates the emissions that are generated. So for instance, by burning fuel, what is the carbon dioxide emission that I have caused? By wasting food, what is the methane emission that I have actually caused in the environment? So all these data are automatically calculated by the platform, and then you can look them up in the analytics screen. So at a very high level, this is what happens in the platform. You define the company, You choose what are the sources of emission that are applicable for the particular company. And then after that, you enter the details each month. So the data recording normally happens on a monthly basis by the relevant department's box, whoever is identified as the point of contact for the particular department. Once they enter the details, system automatically generates the emissions. And then you can take a look at the emissions here on this analytics page. So for example, this is an overview. It tells you that, for under scope 1, this is, so all the emissions are represented in CO2e metric tons. That is the standard unit across the globe. So for instance, scope 1, I have caused, 63,000 metric tons of emission for this year. So this reporting can be done based on the period that has been set up for them. We could capture data for multiple years. As a practice, when we sign up with an organization, we request them for 2 years of historical data. So like now today, if we are in 2025, we ask for 2023 data and 2024 data. And so all the 3 years data can be represented using this analytics platform. We can choose the year. There is an option to choose which year you want to look at, which month you want to look at. And based on that, all these parameters are calculated by the system and displayed. So under each category, what are your emissions? So the ones in amber or red are the ones which need attention. The ones in green are probably the ones where you are better off than the industry benchmark. So at one stroke, this dashboard kind of tells you where you are and what are the areas which need improvement. And you have all these line charts which give you detailed breakup of all the emission and the scope and category emission numbers. So you could just hover and kind of see what kind of numbers pop up here. So based on the emissions, as per the industry standards, we have these parameters. We have these inputs auto calculated by the platform. So how much waste? So the Prof, to answer the point you were asking, what is your waste intensity, which means the food waste that you generate by your revenue. So you have a number generated. You could compare this with other players in the same industry. You could compare yourself with another hotel chain and see if you are kind of generating more waste than a similar organization is generating in this space. Ditto for water. What is your water consumption? What is your water discharge? How much water is being reused and how much water is just getting thrown out back into the environment or into the ground. So based on this, we calculate the water intensity. So this is one important dashboard that we show. And besides this, so by scope, so based on scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, you can see your patterns through the years, how your trend has been. Have your emissions increased from the previous year? Have you taken any interventions? Have they actually reduced? So while your team and my team works towards educating them towards reducing emissions, we can also show them significant reductions that they have been able to bring over the years by bringing in those interventions. For example, if we bring in measures to reduce food waste, we can kind of compare and tell them that last year these were the numbers that you were seeing, and after the interventions, your emissions have actually come down to this number. So that is the whole purpose of this dashboard. When we are talking about, so the one that I showed you was like a generic dashboard which we can use across industries. When we come specific to the hospitality sector, we have this particular dashboard refined exclusively for the hotel chains, where it tells them how many countries, how many locations, how many keys, how many rooms are they servicing, and what is the waste generated, because waste is one of the key parameters which is tracked for the hotel sector. What is the waste generated, and what is the emission per key. So per room, what is the emission? So this kind of indicates what is the guest carbon footprint for the particular hotel. So these are some numbers that will be of great interest to them, where they can track at a holistic level. At one glance, they get to see roughly what is my emission per room. For instance, if too much of energy is being used, or say too much of food is being wasted, so those will automatically reflect in these numbers, and they can set their interventions accordingly to reduce these numbers. What percentage of renewable energy they are using, how much waste, how much water is being used. So everything comes up in a single dashboard, which makes it much easier for them to analyze and implement their interventions. And there is also a sustainability reporting piece. So if they want to generate a sustainability report using the platform caters to multiple standards across the globe. So it could cater to GRI, it could cater to BRSR in India, it could cater to SASB, which is another broadly used reporting framework across the globe, ESRS. So based on the particular reporting format that the organization wants to go with, the setup is done, and then the company can kind of there is a very detailed questionnaire which comes up on all the three fronts. So you have environment, you have social, and you have governance. So there are a series of questions that are generated for this particular report. So basis this, they could go and fill in the questions, and it automatically generates, it's an AI generated report. It generates a sustainability report for the particular organization. So that being the ultimate aim of the company for subscribing to this platform. So they record emissions, they track emissions month on month, they see what the patterns are, and ultimately end of the year, at the end of the particular fiscal year, they're also able to generate a sustainability report which they can use for their mandatory reporting, for their statutory compliance of reporting on ESG. So this is on the net zero trace module, which is used for recording emissions. I'll also take a couple of minutes to explain to you the carbon trading part. So if we are the project developers, so for instance, if a hotel chain is able to recycle and reuse its recycled water and is able to generate water credits, then the water credit is set up as a carbon trading project. As you can see here, there can be a hydro offset project, there could be a renewable energy. So if there are EV charging stations which are there in the hotel chain, and because of this there is a reduction in the consumption of electricity, then those the EV charge portions can be claimed as credits. And in Nepal, for instance, they are taking up biochar, they are taking up generation of biochar for carbon sequestration. Then the biochar project can be set up as a green credit project. There can be a water project, there can be a plastic recycling project, there can be a biochar project, there can be an EV renewable energy project, or if you are using solar panels, for instance, to save on electricity, then that can be any kind of emission that you're able to bring down. Depending on the norms that are applicable in the particular country, you could be able to generate carbon credits. So in which case, these carbon credits are set up as separate projects and tracked through the life cycle. So for instance, here, if you look at it, say a plastic credit project, then it says that, this is the projected annual credits. Roughly, which country is this project based out of, and which SDG goals, UN SDG goals, does this project satisfy? What is the likely carbon credits that this project can generate, and how much is estimated in the current year? Which registry do we have to work with to generate these credits? And if you look at further details, where is this project based out of? For example, if you're doing a project for Solti, this will show up in Kathmandu. It will say that in this particular location, we have a water credit project, and it will give you the different states of the project. So we start with listing a project for generating a carbon credit. Then it goes through a process of document preparation, document verification, validation by the registry, registering of the product. So this entire cycle takes about 6 to 8 months, Professor, on an average, to run from start to finish. Once the registry is convinced that this is a genuine project and it is entitled or eligible for credits, then the credits are issued. And once the credits are issued, they come back into a platform and are blockchain enabled. So a blockchain enabled credit is auto-generated, and these credits can then be traded through a carbon credit exchange. You could go sell these credits and make money. So the question that you were asking, so these credits are recurring in nature. Every year credits get generated by nature of its, by virtue of its business. And each year the credits can be generated and sold in the carbon credit market based on the vintage year. So there is usually a concept of when the credits started to generate and for what length of period of time the credits get generated. So based on a financial year assumption, these credits get accumulated on an yearly basis, which then get traded on the carbon credit exchange. So this whole process goes through a lot of documentation work. So all the documents are also stored, recorded and stored in the platform. Any point of time, we can pull out the details of these documents. So this is how the carbon credit trading works in the platform.
Okay, so thank you so much. And as you have noticed, the person speaking was also not Vinod, but this colleague, Ramya. Thank you very much to her for enlightening us on the topic. But now we are live, and Vinod Vasudevan is also with us here. So please, if you have any questions, any comments to make. So, well, maybe I can start by I see what is in the chat. So, uh, so there's a question from Krishna Raut. Can tour operators still admit their business interest with while nomad solar tourism trends growing everywhere? So this is a very important question, and so one of the big discussions, also, for instance, for tourism fairs. So we are helping GITF and BITLF, so the big tourism fairs for the south and the north of China next year. In work in getting exhibitors, and we will do a conference as we have done for many years already. But of course, this is also exactly the same discussion. So if people are traveling by themselves, what's the point if the destinations talk to tour operators if the tour operators are not covering the whole market anymore? So, and this is why we are saying of if you are a tour operator offering just a sightseeing tour, going to the normal famous places, you will have a problem. You will be probably out of business in a couple of years because especially with the help of AI and social media. So people have all the information they need for almost all the places in the world, how to travel there. And if you go to YouTube, you will find some videos with some professional travelers, some influencers showing you everything. And so you can book online an air ticket and a hotel room, and so and tickets for the attractions, and maybe rent a car or rent a guide with a car as a driver. So what do you need a tour operator for? So that is why uh, if you want to be a tour operator in the future, you will have to offer things tourists cannot organize by themselves easily. So that's why we are having coined this phrase, the niche is a new normal. So that if you are offering something, and we have been using this example that you do a tour for architects, and well, I'm here in Nepal, so we have very beautiful architecture from Nevari culture. So if you say, okay, we bring people interested in architecture, which can be professional architects, but also maybe people do this as a hobby, and we have a special tour here with a local architect, so somebody who can really talk on the expert level about that, then this is something you will not be so easily able to organize yourself, or you go to some homestay and live in a community and do some projects with them, or share their life for a few days living in the mountains like a farmer. So this is something you cannot so easily organize from afar. But so therefore, yes, so we have one more what is called FIT, free individual travelers, either alone or small groups. And so this is exactly the point that uh, the job of the tour operator is changing from just helping people to find a hotel and an air ticket they can do by themselves. It is to show them those parts of a offer, and this is for Africa. Of course, there's so much local heritage, uh, so many things connected to health, to well-being, to living close to nature, living with less stress, and as well as yeah, all kind of nature experiences, outdoor experiences. So which you can organize and which are not just a jeep in a safari park driving around. That is what we can see, and of course, this is connected also to sustainable offers, so that you can find places using carbon reduction, energy usage reduction, water reduction, waste reduction, so that also you find those people who are interested in the connection to the local community and to the welfare of the destination. So, but that's a very good and a very important question, and this is a part of what meaningful tourism is about. To say use the local resources beyond just a beach or the main famous attractions. So maybe just one example, and then maybe we have some more questions. One example we had from our South Asia discussions, where we have our colleague Gaurav, who is also a tour operator and our certified trainer, mentioning that 7 billion people every year visit Agra because this is where the Taj Mahal is. And but they only come there for half a day. They go there, have a look, and then they go back again. So not they don't leave much money behind. Many people don't even stay overnight there. So what they have done is that they have offered tours in the area around the Taj Mahal and going to villages and saying that there are still people doing handicraft and artisans doing uh, special techniques, which are maybe the grandson of the people who built the Taj Mahal. So you can see how this building is connected with the local culture and the local people. And this way, you are uh, spreading the visitors over a bigger area, so there's not the over tourism problem so much, but also that means that the people in the whole region have some benefit from the 7 million visitors, and but also for the visitors, it means that they have a much deeper experience and maybe a transformational experience rather than just looking at the building, which, well, you can also go online and do it. There's a million very wonderful photos. So just to have a look at it, you don't actually have to go there anymore. So that is the point. What is the opportunity, but also the challenge for tour operators in the future. So yeah, sorry for this rather long answer, but I think it's an important question. Thank you, Krishna, for the question. So do we have any other questions from the audience, or do we have any ideas how to use uh, carbon credit trading also for your own activities or examples? And I'm happy to say we have a couple of our certified trainers, where we have Brigitte from Kenya. We have also Subhadra from Bali, and Iyong from Cameroon, and so there and Ropa. Yeah, Ropa raised her hand, so I was just going to mention you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. I was really impressed because it's my first time to see the report from VNOT on the net zero threat. And, talking about Africa and the issues of data gaps when it comes to sustainable tourism and greening, I think it's high time we should be able to adapt and use it. Although what we may need to also to speak about is our preparedness. But that's the solution, because if we keep on saying that Africa is not ready, we don't have smart meters, we don't have informal formal systems, it's going to take more years. But I think net zero should come to Africa and should be adopted. And I thank you, Professor Alt, for this being on our presentations. And I hope that we can find a bigger platform with policymakers here in Zimbabwe, particularly, specifically for this, so that they may be able to see that it is possible to record, to standardize, and have these reports with us, other than the greenwashing we've been seeing over the years. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Vinod, please answer that.
Very nice points you've raised, ma'am. So there is something a technology called IoT, which is basically Internet of Things. So by using Internet of Things, the data gets transmitted to the net zero trace platform automatically. There is, of course, some amount of data to be entered manually, but that is basically with regards to HR, employee training, people coming and going, and so on. But much of it can be automated. It's not very expensive. And
Okay.
if you look at the volume, so in one particular place where we have installed this system, we have brought the electricity consumption down by 20%, which has
Wow.
resulted in $92,000 per year saving for that particular one hotel. So depending upon
Okay.
the size of the hotel and the other parameters which are there, like if they have land, then the water from the bathrooms, from the kitchen, etc., laundry can be put into an STP, recycled, and then reused in the garden or in the flush. So it's all this is not very, very expensive. It's very doable, and you will get your ROI in about a year, maximum a year and a half.
Wow, interesting. Interesting. Thank you. I think I'll have to write an email to Professor Out for more details on
Sure.
how we can have this to Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Yes. And I think this is what we don't, what you have been saying, that is what should be convincing to everybody, so that there is, as far as I understand, of course, some investment necessary at the beginning, but that also from some other examples you shared with me earlier, so that this is something where normally you have maybe the first year more or less where you get back the investment, and from the second year it is simply printing money, and I think it's a key point that it's a triple win situation. It's not only that you spend less money on electricity and you earn some money from uh, the carbon credit trading, but it's also, of course, that you can show your visitors, your guests, that you are really taking this topic serious and you're really doing something for sustainability. And it's not just some blah blah blah, or maybe a certificate hanging behind your desk on the wall, but that this is an everyday experience for the visitors, and this is also something which can be used in the marketing. And when people are there, that they are shown how this is done, and that they have experience every day when they walk down the corridor from the lift to the hotel room, that behind them the light in the corridor is dimmed if nobody is walking around the corridor. So this is your everyday, every time you go to your room, you have this experience. And certainly you will tell your friends about that. Wow, and this is something which I understand is not really expensive for the investment you needed for that. And so I think therefore it is, one point is clearly is the money, which is important, but the other point is also that you will be able to show to your guests, to your visitors, that you take this serious, and that you are not just doing this because it's you have some nice words, but it's really action. So I think there was somebody raised his or her hand. Who was that? Eo? Yes. Dr. Eo, please go ahead.
Good morning, Professor Alt, and thank you. I'm glad to be on the platform this morning. I watched very keenly the presentation from Vinod, and just to key in with the last contributor from Zimbabwe, we really need this in Cameroon. We need this, and we need to get it concretized. We have a lot of hotels um, that really need to get eco with systems that recycle its water, using solar plants to get its lighting and electrification, heating systems running. And I'll just like, I don't know how we can make that happen, but it's very feasible because there is the awareness, the investors, the owners of these hotels know that these things are necessary. And in terms of the economic value they will gain, as well as the environmental positivity it will bring to the environment. What way I can actually assist is, talking with some government officials, and maybe VNOT can step in through the Indian High Commission in Cameroon, so concrete discussions can actually happen where the system he's actually explaining can be applied practically. So I'm really very interested in making this happen. Once we get it done in one major hotel, I think the others are going to align.
Very true. In fact, if you could share with Professor some of the largest hotels, maybe three large groups, we could initiate the discussion with them and do a kind of feasibility study for them and then see how we can take it forward.
Okay.
Cameroon does attract a lot of tourists, if I'm not wrong, and therefore there is a lot of potential there.
Exactly. We have the Radisson Blue that is still under construction, but it's an international hotel chain. We have the Concord International Hotel, and we have the Hilton Hotel. So those are the big shots we can start off with.
Yes, we can.
Very good. And Dr. Young, I think it's also very important that you mentioned, of course, ideally, if the place is still under construction, then of course also the investment cost is lower because you can do the right things from the beginning. So one example I heard from many hotel people is always that so. The mini bar is running when when the room is not occupied, so it's a
Exactly.
total waste of
Waste.
energy. But that many hotel people said, yeah, but I don't have a switch where I can just turn off only the mini bar. And if I have somebody running around 500 rooms and doing this by hand, I have to pay more for this person than I save from the energy. So I cannot afford to do that. So, and that means, of course, if you in the construction of the hotel, you build this from the beginning in a way that you can individually, from some computer app, you can turn on and off the mini bars remotely, and you do the wiring of the cables in that way. Then, of course, the investment is much smaller than if you have to do this as an afterthought in an existing building. So that's why also we're saying for meaningful tourism. So a lot of these sustainability debates are concentrating on the behavior of travelers and what can you do when you are traveling. So, but of course, tourism starts with the financing and the construction of the infrastructure. And already this is already a part where if you have a meaningful tourism approach, you can do a lot of things right from the beginning. And so Vinod, as you have been saying, so from what I understand is the typical steps are if people are interested that you do an assessment of what can be done
Right.
and then give people some key data, what would be investment, what would be benefit,
True.
and then it can be done
So
with your assistance.
there is a questionnaire which we would share, which would collect basic data like electricity and water, number of rooms that are there, height of the building, number of floors, etc. So based on this initial data, we can work out an approximate ROI based on at least 20% saving, and then we take it forward. If the brand or the group of the hotel chain is a reputed group, like Concord is a reputed group in Cameroon, we could also explore the possibility of AI ROI investing in the IoT sensors and then recovering it over a 12, 14-month time frame from the
Okay.
savings.
Well, that's very interesting. So it's even possible that if the conditions are right, so that you are also acting as an investor, so that you are taking part of the risk as well. That is, I think, especially for many places in Africa, that will be very important
That's
information to
true.
add. So, well, thank you so much, and thank you for both Rupa and Dr. Young for uh, taking up this initiative, and I'm sure that that can be done and can result in real action. So we have time for one more question. If anybody else wants to ask a question, either on carbon credit or on anything else, well, I don't see anybody at the moment. So then I think yeah, we have yeah, I see Reza.
Correct.
So I think we can finish the lecture for today, and I'm sure I'm finishing this by also thanking the Tourism Institute for helping us again, as has been done many times before in organizing all this, and for the technical realization, for the marketing, and this uh, online lecture will also become available on the website of Institute of Tourism. So if you have some colleagues who could not participate and you want to tell them, well, you have to see that, that will be in 1 or 2 days online on the website, like all the other lectures we have been doing in the last 2 weeks. So maybe Reza, if you want to finish with some last words from your side.
No, thank you very much. It was really interesting. I learned a lot. So we will upload everything with the last questions and QR and everything. So I think from 2 days or tomorrow night, everything will be uploaded.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much. And so, yes,
Pro-
for maybe just for only for the our certified trainers. So, in 10 minutes we will have our internal your fixed call. So, with another Zoom link which you got. So please, for the certified trainers, join the other call in 10 minutes. For everybody else, thank you so much for spending well, 1.5 hour of your life with us, and I hope that there will be some practical outcome. And well, if Reza says he learned something, well, obviously there was a really good new information. He knows a lot already, and so thank you, Vinod, from taking time from your busy traveling schedule.
Thank you,
And
Professor.
I'm looking forward to see you next week in
Yes, same here.
Kathmandu.
Yeah.
So with this, thanks everybody, and as we say here, namaste.
Namaste, Professor.
Thank
Thank you.
you,
Thank you.
Professor.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.